afternoon, good people. Welcome back to another episode of TROYism, episode 6. We're getting closer to episode 10, which I'm excited about. Um, Took a week off. I was outside touching grass. We'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah, I just been living life, getting outside. I started the show, of course, this summer. Launched on Juneteenth, to be exact. And so I've really been focused on getting in the routine of shooting the show on the weekend and editing and all that good stuff. So I have purposely dedicated my weekends to that. So I haven't been outside very much outside of my regular like gym and hiking and grocery shopping, the weekly boring stuff. But last weekend I did get out. I actually went to the Bill Pickett Rodeo Invitational or Invitational Rodeo. I'm tripping. And it was in the Industry Hills in City of Industry. And if you don't know what the Bill Pickett Invitational is, it's a black rodeo for black cowboys and cowgirls. And it's just more so a celebration because sometimes the cowboy and cowgirls history as it pertains to the West and the establishment of the West is often lost or overlooked until we start talking about maybe like Bass Reeves and things like that. And me being from Texas, and it's kind of a part of our culture. I mean, everybody thinks that everybody in Texas has a horse, which is not the case, but there's a lot of horses in Texas. But back to the invitational, it was a great time, man. I mean, first of all, as far as rodeo go, I've been to some rodeos, of course, in Texas, and then I went to my university, Prairie View A&M University. One of our focuses there is agriculture and mechanics. Well, that's what the A&M stands for, but big emphasis on agriculture. And so we, what I'm trying to say is basically, we've been around, or I've been around the rodeo experience. Even when I was younger, my grandfather went to rodeos out in Joppy. If you're from Dallas, you're familiar with Joppy. So uh, it was good to kind of be back in that space. It felt really good, and if LA is gonna do a rodeo, of course it's gonna be the most scenic thing ever. And I'm gonna drop a clip after I finish talking about it. But just picture it like Sicily, 1913. It's just like it's a rodeo. Smells like a rodeo. Cow, bull, manure, horse shit. The usual. So you kind of become numb to that. That's just a part of it. But in addition to it being a rodeo, it's in the hills in the city of industry. So the landscape is beautiful. And you're going to see it in the clip I post. But when you're not looking at the rodeo, look behind the rodeo, the open space, and you see nothing but mountains and the hills and the overlook. So if there is a rodeo experience to experience, that's it. In addition to that, they also had a lot of vendors there, so they had Jamaican food. It felt a little bit like a family reunion because, of course, Bill Pickett, it's a black rodeo. It wasn't just black people there, but clearly we were the majority there, and it was just a celebration across all industries. So, of course, Hollywood legend Glenn Turman was there. Everybody know Glenn Turman's a cowboy or a rodeo aficionado. So he was there. There were some other celebrities there as well. But in addition to that, it wasn't about the celebrity. It was just about the community of just black people who are familiar with the ranching and rodeo lifestyle, which is a extension of farming, which I think if you're in America and you're a black American, you definitely have some connection or lineage to farming in some degree in this country, whether your generation's removed or not. So it was good for us all to come together. Of course, we have our line dances, our boots on the ground, and our cupid shuffles and all that stuff. But in addition to that, the people participating in the rodeo traveled from far, far but close for me because they were far because they were here in LA, but close because some of them were from Hempstead, Texas, which is the city that pretty much houses my university. Well, it's in Prairie View University, but Hempstead is like our neighboring city and where a lot of the locals live. So Hempstead represented Oklahoma. There were some people from Oklahoma there. Who else? There were from some people from Houston, of course, some people from Dallas. I mean, people just came from all over, and it's annual, so I'll keep you posted because I'm definitely gonna go back. I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. Those bleachers kind of wore my butt out a little bit, but and then I didn't break my boots in. I wore some new boots, very nice boots, by the way. Here I go, sign of a show. Um, Yeah. So what was I saying? Oh, my boots. Yeah. So my boots were nice, very fashionable. But I hadn't broken them in, and I know better. I used to wear cowboy boots to trying to be like my grandpa. I used to wear cowboy boots to school. I was the only kid who was like, I want some cowboy boots, like like James. That's what I call him, James. So I'm no stranger to wearing cowboy boots, which means I should have known that I should have broken them in before I wore them. But all in all, the Crown Royal was one of the sponsors. Hennessy was there, like as a person. Well, for me, as a person, because you know where I was, cuddled up with Hennessy. But it was a good time, man. So if you are familiar with the rodeo culture, if you're not familiar with the rodeo culture, I think it's something you should definitely check out. So I will keep you posted as we get into the next year because I'll definitely want to go back and give it a try. So take a look at this clip and then we'll get back with some more quick stories before we get into our big stories. Before we do that though, I do want to say I wanted to follow up with you all because I told you that I will reach out to my FEMA Connect in relation to the flooding in Central Texas or just FEMA in general and their response time because they always get flack about being delayed. And so I did reach out to my FEMA contact. Thank you, FEMA contact. And there isn't a an established response time for FEMA, which I find interesting because in my previous life, I was an insurance adjuster, a serious bodily injury insurance adjuster, which people still call me about accidents now. I love it though. I mean, I went through all the trainings like 9 months, so I went through it, so I still have the knowledge base. I should probably start charging y'all though, right? I'll think about that. Recession indicator. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, working in insurance, we had a NatCat or a national catastrophe team that responds in the same way as FEMA for our insureds, and not just our insureds at the time. We also responded just for our local regions as a community response, and we had a requirement time. Unaffected. How was it written? Unaffected by the event itself and inclement weather, we had to be boots on the ground within 24 to 48 hours. I never got to go on NatCat. I still hold resentment about that because NatCat, I hate to say it. I wanted to help people, of course, which is why I wanted to go to NatCat. And then Twister was one of my favorite movies, so I always wanted to be at the scene of like a natural disaster. Don't ask. But in addition to that, they also got like per diem pay on top of their pay, so it was like a cash cow. Like everybody was signing up to do NatCat. But I never got selected for the NatCat team. However, I did have friends who worked on the NatCat team, and their response time was 24 to 48 hours. At the latest, they had 72 hours, but again, that's about inclement weather being involved. So yeah, I don't know, FEMA. I think we may need some oversight in that area where you guys establish a guideline where you have a turnaround time for getting to the scene because uh, in addition to talking to my FEMA source, of course, I did some independent research, and I found that to corroborate what my source said. Look at me, real journalism. I have sources. To corroborate what my source said, however, there is no guideline anywhere. I even asked Big Brother Chat GPT and then Little Brother Grok. There is no guideline. So I think we need some oversight there where we establish one. And I know guidelines and deadlines hold us accountable, but it also sets the standards for being there for people. And this is a federal government entity. So I think we have to do better about that. I mean, we have deadlines with other government agencies like the IRS and Department of Education. Well, as of now, we have deadlines. It's kind of like a free fall right now, but we have deadlines. I think when it comes to natural disasters, especially with us being kind of smack dab in hurricane season, so we'll probably start to see those pick up. Hopefully not. Hopefully we'll have a pleasant season, given the flooding and extensive rains we've had across the country. But if we are going to have a hurricane season, it is going to pick up within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I don't know. It's probably too late for you now, FEMA, but I would strongly encourage you to get some type of deadlines as or requirements for having boots on the ground of a natural disaster, because otherwise you run into situations like you did with the Central Valley floods in Texas, or if we go back to Hurricane Katrina, the chief complaint is always, or other floods in Houston. The chief complaint is always that FEMA is not there on time and their response time is always delayed. And that's even not even boots on the ground, that's also response in the online queue as well as the phone contact. So we have to find a way to streamline that. Yeah, because I mean, people are losing everything, including family members and pets and things like that. We should at least be able to swoop in as quick as we can and provide relief, because we damn sure know how to send stuff to Israel and everybody else across the globe, right? Who said that? Let's start looking now. I think that's where we all can agree. Let's start looking out for home first, and then go out into the world and be chivalrous and generous and supportive. What other story did I want to touch on before we get into our big stories? Oh, I'm supposed to be showing you a clip, right? I'll show you the clip at the end of this segment. I'll figure the clip out. We'll get the clip in there. I promise. I just get on. I start talking about these stories. Um, so you know what? I'll show you the clip right now. We'll talk about the other quick stories on the other side of this break. Okay, and we're back. Let's get right into it, because this story I'm going to spend a little time on, just because it's so many twists and turns. It's a good story, though. It's a really good story. So I'm going to say a name, and I want to pause because I want to see. I'm going to pause after I say the name because I want you to get in the space of what you think when you hear that name. So our first story is about Candace Owens. Okay, so I don't at this point. I think Candace Owens is almost a household name. I don't know if you know everything about Candace Owens, but Candace Owens has a very storied history that starts before her right wing pundit slash, some people will call her a grifter, slash pot. Well, she's a podcaster now, but she's right wing. Candace Owens is one of those figures that's very polarizing. A lot of the black community don't necessarily fool with Candace Owens. Um, I am one of those people who, while I do not agree with everything Candace Owens does, given this next story, or everything that Candace Owens says, I do hold space for Candace Owens. That's one thing you're going to learn about me on this show. I hold space for black women to be whatever they need to be publicly, especially when they're public figures, in order for them to grow and become whatever they eventually become. So I do not agree with a lot of the stuff that she says, and I don't agree with a lot of the grifting stuff she did, especially in Trump's first term. However, I do hold space for Candace Owens to evolve and grow and be who she is, because while she doesn't always stick the landing, there are definitely some very valid points in some of the things she says. I'm not going to go down a list of that right now, because however you feel about Candace Owens, I will not impede on your thought process of her, because you arrived there for a valid enough reason to you as I arrived to the space for me, which is, I told you, holding space for black women to be as broken, which is interesting. We don't allow for black women to be broken in real life, in real time, in a public space. However, the content, when it comes to entertainment and film, we love it. We eat it up. We love when our characters are broken. We love that Olivia Pope held, the entire world on the string and was having sex with the highest. Well, we don't really love that part, but that she was having sex with the president and held that position. But she was also very broken. She was also very traumatized by her upbringing with her parents both being like MI6 agents. So Her mom being a spy, a global foreign spy, traitor, treasonous, whatever. Um, we hold space and we enjoy those characters. Even I'm just gonna stay in Shondaland. Even when we get down to the space of How to Get Away with Murder with Viola Davis and her role as Annalise Keating, she was an amazing attorney, but she was an alcoholic. She was an amazing attorney, but she was somewhat mean, a little bitter, and detached from the reality of her upbringing. So even though I'll go to Mara Brock Akil, I think Shonda Rhimes and Mara Brock Akil hold that space very well. Also Tina Mabry. They hold this space very well where they allow women to be. They show the effectiveness of their heroism, but they also allow them to be very human, very real, and very broken. You see that in Being Mary Jane from Mara Brock Akil. You also even see that in the cast of Girlfriends. Like they had fun, but they also carried some heavy stuff, and we allowed them to be that, and we actually lean into roles like that. Shout out to Issa Rae too, with her characters Issa and Molly and Kelly and Tiffany. We allowed this brokenness, and full circle, we allowed the brokenness of Tiffany on Insecure, but a lot of people detest the brokenness of Amanda Seals, who played Tiffany. We'll unpack that at another time. I really just want to get into the Candace Owens story, but I just really wanted to kind of lay that out there because we have to kind of check our biases when it comes to what we allow art to reflect and what we absolutely won't accept in our real lives, which art and life reflect one another or should. So, anyway, back to Candace Owens. Um, Candace Owens. Candace Owens is currently being sued by the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, and his wife, Brigitte Macron, because, in a very a la Tasha K. Cardi B fashion, Candace Owens believes without a shadow of a doubt that the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who is 47, she believes that his wife, who's 24 years his senior, she's 24 years older than him. She's 72, he's 47, was born a man by the name of Jean Michel Trogneau. So, like, first of all, if you grew up watching Ace Ventura, first of all, what in the Finkel and Einhorn is going on, or does Candace think is going on? So, this all started actually during the pandemic around December 2021. And you can look it up. There was a YouTube video that came out where two women went down this rabbit hole of their suspect or suspicion rather that the French president's wife, Brigitte, now 72, was born a man. And they did that basically just on her structure and her body. She does have very broad shoulders. And she has one of those, but I said one of those, like you can buy it at the store. She has one of those. But she does have very broad shoulders, and the shoulder pads probably don't help. First Lady Macron, you want to cut out on the blazers with the shoulder pads. That's overkill. Um, but Candace Owens is adamant that Brigitte Macron was born a man, and and so after, honestly, they've been very patient with her because Candace has been going on this tangent probably almost since 2022, and so it's come to a head to where because Candace Owens' presence is so big, like I said, she's almost a household name, or she surely is to some degree. Whether you like her or not, she's a polarizing figure, like I said earlier. So they've sued her for defamation at this point. Uh, but Candace, in true Tasha K fashion, is not backing down. She is saying that she is waiting for the discovery period, and that this will prove. If you don't know what discovery is the part in the case that a lot of people avoid. It's the part where all information has to be made public for both parties to use to their defense or to be able to refute during the trial. So discovery can often involve phone records, text message threads. I'll tell you something about discovery. Discovery is the reason why a lot of cases. I'm gonna give you some backstory on discovery. Discovery is one of those. Is the part where a case will not go to trial because sometimes discovery exposes other punishable offenses. Case in point, let's say hypothetically, Somebody is suing me because they say I conspired to get them fired at their job, or I was their boss and I conspired. Well, if I go into discovery, which is why a lot of companies and organizations make you sign a mediation clause because they would rather you go to mediation. Because if we go to discovery, we could be going to discovery about wrongful termination, and then we find out y'all are committing all kind of frauds because it came up in records that I thought would be relevant or we thought would be relevant to my case. Come to find out, you're doing all kinds of other crooked shit. So yeah, discovery is where a case can live and die. So a lot of people avoid it, and so that's what Candace Owens is banking on. She's banking on discovery because one of the requests would be a blood test. A blood test will easily solve this. Uh, it's crazy how a blood test will solve a lot of people's problem right now. Anyway, um, yeah. So, and that was in reference to Jay Z. I know that could have been very open ended. That was in reference to a lot of people calling for Jay Z to get a paternity test because Ramir Satterwhite has claimed that Jay Z is his biological father. I will let you dig into that. That's kind of stuff I look into offline, but I'll let you. And if that story progresses, I'll bring it here. But let me get back to Candace Owens, please. Because there's more to this story. And I think that's what fueled Candace Owens. I think once you find one thing that's suspicious or raises a flag, which this part does raise a flag for me, generally my consensus on whether Brigitte Macron is a man or was born a man, I want to say, uh, is none of my business. And I don't really care. I think that if the president of France is okay with that situation, which he has to more than now be at this point, then that's none of our business. And I honestly think it's a little cruel for Candace Owens to keep going on this because on the other side of it, let's say you prove it, what happens or what what do you want to I really don't know what she wants to come from this. I think she just wants transparency, but this is where people ride the fence, or this is what makes Candace Owens polarizing because a lot of people feel like me and they're a little more passionate about it than I am and saying, why is this your business? Why is this like, why does this have anything to do with you? So first of all, Candace, I know you probably won't see this, but you are a mother, you have a very successful, polarizing career. And so this is going to make or break you. And I don't know, I would have had the same conversation with Tasha K. This is going to make or break you. So if you are journalistically motivated and you believe within a shadow of a doubt that this is the case, then God bless on the other side of whatever comes from this. But let's get into the Macrons because that's where I think this is what led Candace, like I said, off on this tangent because there are a few red flags. So I'm operating in, when I tell this story, I'm not operating in the shadow of Candace Owens thinking that Brigitte Macron was born a man. I'm just operating in the space of Brigitte Macron was born a biological woman, and this is still eyebrow raising. Or is it eyebrow raising for America and not France or Europe? I'll let you decide. So I spoke about the age gap because it serves another story. So Emmanuel Macron is 47, Brigitte is 72. That's a 24-year age gap. I personally don't care about the age gap. It's the origin of the age gap. See, this will be on my tinfoil shows. Look, I'll be getting sued with Candace. Uh, because this is the part. So they met when he was in Jesuit school because Miss Macron was his teacher or theater or drama teacher in a play when he was underage. So he's known this woman since he was underage. And so then that raises the potential alleged grooming aspect of it because that's your teacher, your drama teacher, who directed you in some school plays. Ending up years later. Now, to their credit, I don't think they got married until 2007, which is some time. However, it does raise flags that your 24 age gap is with the woman who was your teacher when you were underage. Creates a lot of gray space as far as creates a lot of gray space as far as how that came to be. But the caveat I'll put up, and the reason why I said US versus Europe is European men, especially younger European men, have an affinity for older women. It's a thing. It's like a thing. They think women don't hit their sexual peak or prime till about 40, and they think the women age like fine wine. That's kind of where it comes from. Age like fine wine, and they like being in the presence or company of older women. I don't know what that's about, but it's definitely a thing in Europe. So I'm gonna track this. I'm gonna track this for the sake of Candace Owens. Live long and prosper, baby girl. But I think this may be the one. This one, like I said, this one will either make you or break you. But I will be tracking along with this story just because at this point we're all engaged to some degree. So take a break and we will get into the next story. All right, we're back. I feel good. Yeah, I didn't know how I would feel after taking a week off. I mean, I kind of wanted to use it as like a little test ground too, because I'm gonna take a bit of a small hiatus before we go into season two. But yeah, I was cool. I was actually kind of like eager to get back. Like, no, so just to talk about my process as far as delivering stories or discussing stories with you, I normally have about 7 stories or so that I want to talk about with you all, and then I dwindle it down to about 4 or 3. Um, but this week I had like 11 stories that I was like going through, and I researched them all, and I try to get different perspectives because I don't want this to become an echo chamber of, even though the show is named like after me, my name's in lights. Uh, I don't want to this become an echo chamber where you expect my thoughts or relying on my thoughts. I want us to have a healthy, open forum where we allow our thoughts to shape what we think versus just being spoon fed thoughts by the person on the other side of the screen, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's get into the next story. If Beyonce were here, she would probably title this story as America. America has a problem. So, goodness. So the last time I talked about this story, I end up talking about The Young and the Restless and Bold and Beautiful. I'll spare you, although the response from that was hilarious. Y'all are funny. A few of y'all dragged me for that, but it is what it is. It's a part of black culture actually, because yeah, we all have our Victor Newman stories. The hood loves Victor Newman for sure. And crazy enough, here I go again. The Hood loves Eric Braden too. The character who plays Victor Newman, the Hood loves Eric Braden because Eric Braden, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his exchanges on Twitter. He's very liberal. He's very pro choice. He's like a stand up guy. And I don't know if you noticed this, but Eric Braden was also on the movie Titanic. He was one of the rich guys that died. Victor Newman is in Titanic. So the movie, the film. So anyway, back to, you know what? I'm gonna call this Epstein Island because that's what it is. And I'll say this: a dramatic pause. You know, millennials, we love a dramatic pause. Um, for all the hell that Epstein is keeping up dead, I can only imagine how horrible he was when he was alive. This man was terror, like personified. Like that would be a terrorist, right? Terror personified would be a terrorist. Either way, well, I don't want to call him a terrorist though. I want to call him terror personified. I think that's better. A little more gloomy and dark and scary, which actually is very appropriate. Anyway, Epstein's been dead since 2019, right? Died under Trump's watch. That's important, or under Trump's presidency, rather. So I'm just gonna give you the bullet points because by the time I I'm filming this now, by the time I launch the episode, we'll have a few more twists and turns. So I'll just give you the high note, the high level. So initially, Pam Bundy, who's the top attorney in the country, head of the Department of Justice. Maybe I shouldn't drink any more water. Pam Bundy, who's the head of the Department of Justice, I would say Defense of Justice, the Department of Justice, top cop, top attorney. Basically, she said that the Epstein files had nothing there. We recounted that. Fast forward, we find out not only is there a client list, not only does the file have a lot of stuff in them, a lot of that stuff is our president's name. So apparently, sometime in May, uh, Pam Bondi went to Trump and said, "Hey, you're in this thing." First of all, they allocated 1,000 employees of the DOJ to comb through 100,000 pages. So we went from there's nothing there to 100,000 pages. Put a pin in that. She went to Trump and said, "Hey, we may not be able to release this thing," and I'm paraphrasing, you know, colorful, dramatic effect. I'm a millennial. Deal with it. So she went to Trump. She said, "Hey, your name is bleeding through this thing. Like, your name is bleeding through this damn thing. Like, you are up and through. You and this man look like best friends. You look like bosom buddies." So at some point, apparently, we were like, "Well, we can't let this come out." I'm going to say Trump said that allegedly. Allegedly. Trump said, "Don't release it." She came to us and said, "Hey, there was nothing substantial there. We're just going to move on. This is not a thing." Trump said, "Forget about it. Don't think about it. He was a loser. He was a low life. I have more pictures with him than I have with my grandkids. I have more pictures with him than I have with my wives. But no big deal. I barely knew the guy." So that's what they told us. Collectively, Dems, independents, but most importantly, MAGA, because this was a part of his campaign promise. MAGA said, "Hell no, we're not doing that. So you're going to release these and you're going to tell us about them." He wasn't prepared for the online backlash, uh, and he received it. So here's where we are now. Update: there is a client list. As I said, it consists of the Epstein file consists of 100,000 pages. So they said, "Well, we're just going to get the subpoena from the Southern District of New York." I want you to pay attention to that. Before I get into all of the twists and turns and distractions they tried to create, I want to talk to you about that. They said, "Well, let's get the testimony from the Southern District of New York, because in the Southern District of New York, Trump more than likely wouldn't have been mentioned, or if he would have been mentioned, it wouldn't have been in that capacity. Trump would have been mentioned in Florida, where Pam Bondi came from. Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSantis presides from Epstein's first conviction. Uh, so Trump was betting on, my guess, Trump was betting on not being brought up in the testimony in New York. So he was saying, let's get that to them. Let's release that for them. But here's the problem: we discovered that there was 100,000 pages. Shout out to the Wall Street Journal. As the aunties and the Christians used to say, there's a leak in this old building, because somebody within the Trump administration, which is so poetic and so Shakespearean, someone in the Trump administration is leaking. We don't know who it is. They want to say it's Dan Bongino, and they want to say it may be Elon Musk. Effectively, we don't know. We don't know who's leaking this information, but someone is leaking credible information to the Wall Street Journal. They released, of course, you saw or heard about it, if you haven't, they released a birthday note, a cryptic birthday note that Trump wrote to Epstein for his birthday. Very cryptic. "We hold this special secret together" type shit. Sounds like we're doing something that we can't write in the light of day, so we're gonna send codes to each other, which could sound like chomo activity, child trafficking for les sex. So Trump said, "That wasn't me. I didn't write that." And you know what? To be fair, although I don't have to be in this situation, there's lots of times where, the higher ups have people sign their cards and do their things and stuff like that. So he said, "You know what? I had some staff sign that. That wasn't me." Bullshit. And this is why it was bullshit, because Trump said he's not a doodler. Mind you, this man has drawn photos, or he effectively lied. Neither one is good, because one just immediately destroys your character, and one just delays the destruction of your character. Either you drew the doodles that were reminiscent to the birthday card, which the birthday card had a doodle of a naked woman. Either you drew those and you are a doodler, or you didn't and you lied and gave pictures to charity telling them that you wrote it. But then your charity failed, so this makes sense. Follow me. I'm going somewhere. So far we've established the credibility is lacking. Next up, we realize that, well, he goes to, "This is a hoax. This is a hoax set up by Obama and the Dems to bring me down." Here's the problem with that: you made Epstein your tent pole, one of your tent pole campaign discussions. Sorry, worked out yesterday back. felt one of them little pop. You know, you feel one of them little spasms when the back workout kicking in. Sorry. But yeah, you made the Epstein files because what you wanted to do was you wanted to grab that swath of podcast bros like Alex Jones and Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz and who else? It's a lot of them. And I know them because I used to watch them. Transparency. During the pandemic, I used to watch all of these guys effectively, and then they took a sharp turn. Uh, or maybe they've always been this person and it took the sharp turn for me to realize. That's accountability on my part. Uh, but anyway, you wanted to effectively get the podcast bros on your side and do your bidding for your campaign for your 2024 election run. So you made the Epstein files your tent pole because you thought nothing would ever come from it. Unfortunately, you put people like Dan Bongino, who made it his, who was a podcaster, is a podcaster. I don't know how that works. He's the deputy director of the FBI right now, along with Kash Patel. They have clips still effectively on the internet saying that this is their priority. This is their tempo. As directors of the FBI, they're going to go in and they're going to expose everything to the light of day, bringing down all the conspirators and co-conspirators until you realize that your president in chief might be, is on the list. Over 100,000 pages. Do you know how much you have to be mentioned in 100,000 pages to where they scrap the whole damn thing? Like you were in there so much that they couldn't even redact you. They couldn't cross you out. It was like this is an Epstein file narrated by Trump. Essentially, you were in there so much that they couldn't remove you and effectively still have a narrative. That's disgusting. Like you were that close to someone. Like it's one thing to have a boss or work with somebody or your coworker and you later find out they're a creep. Well, he's like, well, I just talked to him in the break room for a few seconds. I didn't really know what the guy did. You know, I didn't know he had kids in his basement in cages. But this was your boy. This was your friend. So Trump said, I had no relation to him. He wasn't my friend, blah, blah, blah. Wall Street Journal continues. So let me tell you what the Wall Street Journal is doing at this point. Of course, Trump wants to sue Rupert Murdoch, who's his friend. Fox News is throwing him under the bus. This is a shit show royale. So he said, this is not, and I don't want to belabor this, but you got to know this stuff. So he said that this is all a lie. This is a hoax. Elon jumps in on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. He said that, well, I wish Epstein would have known this was a hoax and then he wouldn't have killed himself because that was Trump's next go to. This is all fake, created by the Democrats. So fast forward, it's a lot. It's been a lot of changes, you guys. I'm sorry. So then the sentiment became, well, if it's a hoax, why is Ghislaine Maxwell, his co-conspirator, who trained the young girls on how to please grown men sexually? She coached and trained girls, I'm not going to say underage, girls implies underage, girls on how to sexually please adult, not even adult, old men, little girls, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, to sexually please grown men. That was her role. That's what she did. She was the wrangler. She used to recruit them. This is all documented. She used to recruit them at Mar-a-Lago. Now, what Trump would have you believe is that he said, oh, I had him kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. Yes, he did. But what he won't tell you is it wasn't related to the chomo activity or the trafficking. It was related to a business deal gone bad, and he was mad at his friend for not looking out for him, and he lost money on a deal effectively. That's why, because he was mad. And that's more akin to who Donald Trump is. When you piss him off or get out of his good graces, then it's off to the races, jail, wherever. Look at Rudy Giuliani. Ruined a decent legacy, actually a really good legacy, especially around 9/11. You ruined it for Trump. And now you're on the hook for 450. I'm going to focus. So fast forward, it's exhausting, but we got to get through this. So fast forward, where we are right now, Ghislaine Maxwell has met with the Department of Justice attorneys for 9 hours. They returned her to her prison with a box of files that no one knows. This is on surveillance. And she is now asking They granted her limited immunity, and I know that runs people up the flagpole. So let me try to explain it before you go. I know we hear immunity and we're like, what? So limited immunity basically means that whatever you share with us cannot be added or put on to the crimes you're already serving. You've already been sentenced, you're already serving your time. We will not use this effectively, but it's the US government, so we will not use this effectively to prosecute you based on charges that you've already been charged for. That's one. So that's what limited immunity is. It's kind of standard in these situations. So I don't want you to freak out about it too much. You know, keep your antennas up though, because we are talking about a global trafficking ring. So amongst other things, keep in mind the trafficking is just one thing. There's a bunch of other like global governmental militarized issues that follow Jeffrey's Epstein's legacy. So it wasn't just this was the fun. This is what they did when they got off work from doing the other bad stuff. So it's a lot. But anyway, so she got the limited immunity that allowed her to speak freely. So she spoke freely. She allegedly provided 100 name client list. Big surprise. Trump's probably not going to be on there. Anybody that Trump likes is probably not going to be on there. Any enemy that he has is more than likely going to be on there because at this point, he has called for the arrest of Barack Obama, which can't happen based on his Supreme Court ruling that he pushed for qualified immunity. Presidential immunity. That's for qualified immunities for cops. Presidential immunity, meaning that any act that a president commits within the scope of his presidency will be viewed, whether above or below the law, will be viewed as a measure used to protect the republic or the United States. Which, give in the hands of the right guy, which I don't even know who the right guy would be. I wouldn't even give that to Barack Obama, and I like Obama. But he gave it to himself, and unfortunately, it extends to Obama. So he called for the arrest of Obama. Can't happen. Now he's trying to arrest. I'm not even bullshitting you. He is trying to arrest Kamala Harris because they uncovered that they found $11 million was paid to Beyonce allegedly to perform for Kamala Harris's campaign trail in Houston. So he wants to lock up Kamala Harris. He wants to lock up Beyonce because they spent government funds for her campaign fund, her presidential campaign. Y'all, it's so much. In the scope of that, he also had our director of national insecurity, Tulsi Gabbard, uh, create this whole thing to prove that Barack Obama's presidency and Barack Obama, this is why he's trying to lock Barack Obama up, because he said Barack Obama had something to do with Russiagate and he orchestrated it and they have the documents. I'll be very clear with you. No one cares, Tulsi. No one cares. Trump doesn't even care. Trump even went on media and said, hey, I think my qualified immunity will protect them, so he owes me. Tulsi, read the room, sis. Nobody likes you. They didn't like you on the liberal side because you were a traitor and a bus chunker, and now you're on the right side, and they effectively ignore you like you're Jan Brady. Yeah, you're the Jan Brady of politics. They listen to Jill Stein more than they listen to you, Tulsi Gabbard. Keep that in mind. They call Jill Stein to help them win elections, and they never call you at all. The only reason why you even got the role that you have is because you effectively betrayed the liberals and the Democratic Party for any shot that they gave you. So, Jean Grey with the streak, guess what? They effectively don't care about you. The president has already moved on from your big cause. This is going to be your big moment, your claim to fame. So, as they say in your native land of Hawaii, aloha. We don't care. So, yeah, so we're gonna lock up Obama. We're gonna lock up Kamala Harris. We're gonna lock up Beyonce. All black people, by the way. Ironic, but anyway. So it's just a lot with this Epstein shit. I just want you to pay attention to it. I know it's exhausting. This segment was probably exhausting just getting through, to be honest with you. But I think that we need to be very aware of this shit, man. You have to pay attention because when stuff like this happens, I'm telling you now, when this list comes out, you're going to see names. I want to preface you. When this list or should this list ever make the light of day, this is what I want to say. You will see names that you are familiar with. You will more than likely see names of people that you liked until the list comes out. What I want to say is, while the list is definitely a cause for concern for sure, you're gonna have to find out the nature of the exchange with Jeffrey Epstein, because in addition to him being global king chomo and trafficker along with Ghislaine Maxwell, imagine trying to lock up Beyonce, Obama, and Kamala Harris, but trying to offer a pardon or a leeway to Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a global sex trafficker up until I guess 2 weeks ago. So when this list comes out, I want you to make sure that you do your due diligence, and I'll do as much as I can if it comes out to kind of connect dots for you and paint a better picture. But it's a lot, and I there's so much going on in government right now. I can't even. I need a 3 hour podcast, just 3 hour weekly podcast, just to cover everything that you need to know about what's happening. But just a lot of little time, maybe twice a week, in addition to this show, and just keep yourself abreast of what's going on, because a lot's going on really fast. And I'll just update you on this next week. I'm actually tired of talking about this. So let's take a break, and then we'll get into our final story. And I'll use the final story to kind of wrap us up and get us out of here. Sit tight. And we're back. Okay. Whew, that Epstein shit is exhausting. It's a lot. And as much as I tried to keep you up to speed and give you all the moving parts, that all happened in the course of not even the whole time I was away. That just happened in the course of the last few days. So it's very, I know it's a lot. I know it's very heavy. I know no one wants to talk about it, but we have to kind of we kind of still have to talk about this stuff to keep, first of all, the federal government accountable, because it's kind of hard to be a nation of law and order when it doesn't start at the top. But anyway, I want to transition into this last story that will ultimately take us, we'll wrap on. So this past week was very rough for anyone who experienced or grew up relatively close to the 1980s, be it born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s or what have you. Ironically, the the occurrences of the past week, and I think you all know what I'm talking about by now, um, kind of told a story, a full story about who we were as a country and who we are now as a country. So last week, actor, bass player, poet, Renaissance man, all around, all American guy, Malcom-Jamal Warner passed away tragically after drowning on vacation with his family. The details are still coming in, and some of the stories are conflicting. What I will say to everyone about the conflicting stories coming in, keep in mind that this is about vantage point when it comes to someone passing. It's about who was there from the onset of the occurrence to who later came, who was an official who had to record and document. So you're gonna get a lot of that surrounding it, and usually that's the breeding ground for conspiracy. So before we go there and before we allow that to go there, let's just understand. As of right now, he passed away tragically from an accidental drowning, and until we know more to raise a flag, because right now we just have um, stories conflicting about what happened, who was there, how, which is typical, which is very typical in situations where there's a lot going on, life-saving measures are at play. So let's just hold on to, he passed away tragically from an accidental drowning, and until we know more that causes us to raise a flag, we won't raise any unnecessary flags. What we will speak to is the good nature of the man he was and how he carried himself and how he presented himself. One thing that he said, I grew up, of course, watching The Cosby Show, but also just being a fan of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's, because he came in at a time where in the 80s, a lot of the symbolism that was being pushed from the government as well as just media was a lot of, it was the inception of hip hop, and hip hop kind of had this stain for being rooted in drugs and gang activity and things like that, or that's the turn it had taken, or the narrative had been turned to reflect hip hop in that way. And so in the 80s, you had the Cosby Show, which, personal scrutinies aside, of course, of Bill Cosby, which are definitely warranted. Uh, the Cosby Show did and still very much holds that symbol of aspiration for the Black American family. And so you had dad's a doctor, mom's a lawyer, they have 5 children, all bad. Another thing, all bad as hell. Those kids were bad. I don't care what the price point is or how socioeconomic status, those kids were bad and mischievous, but they were mischievous in a fun way that all children should be supported with, which is room to grow and explore and to become and be supported by your parents, but supported in becoming the individual that you will be and go out into the world. Not a parent vicariously trying to make you them or correct their wrongs in you. It was just parenting rambunctious spirits who they wanted to just be the best representation of them that they could be. Anyway, I could talk about the Cosby Show all day because it meant so much to us. Cosby Show, different world, just that run that took us into the 90s of black television and programming. Family Matters in there as well. You get it. So, and with Malcolm-Jamal Warner being the only son in that family dynamic, he created a space where young black men in that era, young black boys in that era, and even a little after that, because I'm a little after that. By the time I got of age, the Cosby Show was kind of rapping a little bit, or rapping. It rapped in '92. So Malcolm Jamal Warner and that character Theo Huxtable, he held a space where everything was being pushed to either be an athlete or a rapper or a drug dealer. He held that space where no, you could just be a kid and you could just have an experience in life that didn't lean to those things. And throughout that, Malcolm Jamal Warner, he often accredited the Cosby Show being his first job and it just being, going out of the stratosphere. At times, the Cosby Show had 30 million people tuning in to watch it, appointment TV. Like, that's how it crossed color lines. It was a black family, but it was everybody's family. It was aspirational for all colors. It was like Baywatch. Like Baywatch, people still watch. There's channels where Baywatch is on a loop right now. Like it was like that. It is like that, and it just held more in the black community just because we didn't see that a lot. And it was that first big tempo where we saw that, where mom, dad was in the house. Mind you, we're being ravaged by crack and later AIDS and HIV and mass incarceration and all these things. So we saw this symbol that it was possible. Even if it wasn't our immediate reality, we saw that it was possible. So that's what not only Theo Huxtable represented, but as he would go on through his career, Malcolm Jamal Warner would credit that being his first role or breakout role to where it created a foundation where he could continue to uphold that standard of a Theo Huxtable type character, if that made sense. So he went on to play doctors and he went on to play these pivotal roles in Tuskegee Airmen. He had the luxury of rejecting drug dealer number three or I hate to say that, but it's real. If you're in LA, if you're an actor, you know how the breakdowns go. Drug dealer number three or gang banger number two, like and not to discredit that because it's honest work and you're portraying an experience. So I'm not shitting on that. But what I'm saying is he provided and represented an outlet for that to where when we go into these spaces and we walk into these rooms, we don't have to automatically assume that we have to subscribe to the drug dealer, gangbanger, whatever, what thug in the street type, symbolism. So he represented a lot for us. And he lived or died rather the way he lived. And I say that in the sense that he will be remembered as Theo Huxtable, not just as Theo Huxtable, but Malcolm Jamal Warner will be remembered as a Theo Huxtable type character. And that's very important. And if you think about it, all of those Cosby kids turned out good. I mean, if you look at all of them, they all broke off into it's kind of like art imitating life because they all broke out into becoming these individuals and these people that you could hold in a high regard and you respected their art and you respected their craft. I mean, not just the kids, but you look at Erica Alexander, you look at who plays Charmaine? She played Charmaine. Charmaine Taisha Brown, who ended up on A Different World with Jada Pinkett. Melinda. Oh, I forgot her name. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Y'all know who I'm talking about though. She was in Lean on Me. You know, Mr. Clark don't trust you with your because you don't take care of your responsibilities. The one that got pregnant. But anyway, Karen Molina White, because she went on to star with him in Malcolm and Eddie as well. Karen Molina White, and I think they also dated too, which was some controversy around that on socials, but I'm not gonna get into that. Um, I want to say shout out, or I'm sending my love and my prayers out to those who knew him personally, those who were affected by him personally, like myself. Um, and it's one of those pivotal moments where it doesn't hit you until it hits you. I posted something on socials where I said, you don't realize how much space someone holds in your heart until they're kind of removed from it. And I'm not removed from it in the sense that we won't hold the memories of him and what he contributed to us, but that space that we held for a living Malcolm-Jamal Warner has simply now become a memory of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. That's what I mean. And you don't know that people hold those. Like I didn't know I held space in my heart for Malcolm-Jamal Warner and the character of Theo Huxtable and just the body of work that he put out. I knew I held him in high regard. I knew he was definitely a credit to our community, our culture, our race. He was a credit to actors, black men, male actors. I knew all those things. I just didn't know that I held a personal space for him. And I think we all learned that this week, that we held space for who he is. And I would even venture out to say that we more than likely hold space for all of those Huxtables in that way. And all the characters associated not only with uh, the Cosby Show, but A Different World, and just all of those shows that meant something to us. So I want to brace ourselves, millennials, as we get older. We will see more of these moments. Hopefully, not as tragic as Malcolm Jamal Warner's demise, but we will see these things as we get older. It's a part of life. It's the unfortunate part, but it is. So, in continuation of the '80s, because it wasn't just Malcolm Jamal Warner, wrestling pop icon Hulk Hogan passed away as well. This is one of those positions that a lot of people, a lot of minorities, or I'm just gonna say black people in this sense, are put in. It's a tough spot because we grew up in this cultural vacuum where we shared experiences. I watched WWE. I watched SmackDown. Well, he wasn't on SmackDown, I don't think, but I watched that was a Rock. But I watched SmackDown. I no, let me. I watched Mr. Nanny. I don't even know if you all know about Mr. Nanny, but Mr. Nanny was a movie starring Hulk Hogan, where he was a nanny who moved in to take care of these unruly children or whatever. Not a great movie, probably C list, D list, but I enjoyed it because I enjoyed Hulk Hogan and I enjoyed his power and I enjoyed his symbolism and I enjoyed what he represented. You know, I think boys are taught to grow up and eat your vegetables and be strong. And you know, there was Popeye and Hulk Hogan. You know, and ripping his shirt. Like it's just those things. Like I remember playing like the wrestling game. The what do you call it? The punch. Mike. No, that was Mike Tyson Fight Night. Look, I'm mixing all my '80s shit up. But anyway, they had a wrestling game like that too, by the way, to some degree. Anyway, Hulk Hogan passed away too. And while we would love to hold Hulk Hogan in the same regard that we held Malcolm Jamal Warner, because it's old to a degree because of what he represented in the 80s. But like I said, minority groups are often conflicted with this because, and he passed 10 years to the date of this actually. 10 years ago, there was a leak that came out with him using the N word disparagingly. I mean, I don't agree with you using the N word uplifting wise. Like, don't say that in front of me. Do not say that in front of me. Um, and so, yeah, do not say that in front of me. Just want to make that, I want the world to know because sometimes you don't know where people stand. Like that Mexican OT stuff. Don't say it in front of me. Say it in front of the black people who told you you can say it in front of. Do not say that in front of me. Friendly reminder. Um, but yeah, Hulk Hogan, he was caught on tape saying saying the N word in a very disparaging tone, which, like I said, you shouldn't be saying it in any tone. But so then it makes it conflicted for us because you want to honor, and so there has just been fighting back and forth all week about whether we honor him or not I personally didn't post anything. I personally will not post anything because I don't care, living or dead. How you live is how you die. So I'm not gonna hold you in any regard if that's who you were, because that's who you were when no one was listening. And I think your character matters. And so when I speak about this being emblematic of um, where we are as a culture, when you look, oh, wait, before I get to that, in addition to him using the N word, he was also anti union. So the Wrestling Federation wanted to unionize, the wrestlers wanted to unionize. He dropped dime on them and ran and told Vince McMahon that they were trying to unionize and pretty much foiled or killed the thing. I mean, there's an interview with Jesse Ventura where he talks about how, that was the day that him and Hulk were done because he sold out the unions. Like, you spend your time talking about brother, and the chance you actually have to stand up for your brothers, you sold out your brothers. So it's just like, I have nothing for that. So not only were you disparaging and racist to black people or black Americans, you also weren't a friend or a trusted ally for your members of your brothers of wrestling. So at the point, we're at the point where who you showed us was just a performance. So we're in these two juxtapositions as it relates to the 80s. You have Malcom-Jamal Warner, who played Theo Huxtable, who also lived his life along the lines of a Theo Huxtable. And then you have Hulk Hogan, who created this image of this abominable hero, like this guy that, all men aspire to be or be like or know or whatever, even the Slim Jim commercial, like Slim Jim. Like, you became this polarizing, larger than life figure. I haven't even gotten into his support of MAGA. We just saw him ripping his shirt off at this most recent campaign for Trump. Couldn't even rip the damn shirt off. Like, it was embarrassing. But just to see him slide down that scale, or not even slide down the scale, to see him be that person outside of the hero that he portrayed himself to be. But we've seen this before. We saw it with John Wayne. John Wayne was the exact same way. His later interviews came out and he was abusive to women and thought blacks didn't deserve to be in certain places until they learned how to act, and just crazy shit. Like I said, rabbit hole got here. But anyway, back to Hulk Hogan and the overarching thing, and that's gonna take us. We're gonna wrap on this today. But I think America as a whole has to reconcile if we are Theo Huxtable, who shows up and then lives the life to the way they showed up, or are we more akin to, unfortunately, which is what I think is more accurate right now, Hulk Hogan? We put on the glam, we put on the glitz, we show up strong, we show up bright, we give everybody something to aspire to, because that's the standing of America, or it was before 6 months ago, or it still is. It's still our identity. People understand around the world, but it's fading fast. And so we have to reconcile with, are we just like wrestling, where we're entertained by it, we see it, we understand it, but at the end of the day, it's just all performative. And then what we're pushing out, is it something to be critically acclaimed, or not critically acclaimed, but is it something to be lauded after? Is it something to aspire to? Or is it just us getting drunk off our own Kool-Aid? I mean, if you look at wrestling, resolution through physical altercation, very American. It's the one place where people cheer on violence and nefarious demeanor. I'll say that. It's the one place where a man can pick a woman up by her neck, i.e., the Department of Education Secretary Linda McMahon. It's the one place where a man will pick a woman up by her neck and choke slam her into a table, and the crowd goes, wow, choke her again. Women, of course, are over sexualized on screen and off, hence the Me Too and all the accusations of sexual assault and stuff allegedly that Vincent McMahon has to deal with. The anti-unionization of the anti-unionization of the Federation. Oh, had to practice that one. These are all emblematic of the America that we've come to know. And I think we have to use this moment to actually figure out if we are who we say we are, or if we're just a group of people putting on show, hoping that the rest of the world buys into it. It feels like the latter, and it feels like quite like Hulk Hogan. The jig is up. They see us for who we are. And Trump is definitely the Hulk Hogan of politics. Definitely moments of racism and discrimination across several communities. Definitely fighting fires right now of being a womanizer, has lawsuits pending, convicted felon for those acts, being coupled right now with a global child sex trafficker. And then you get to the business dealings, anti unionization, anti leasing to people of color, a list and litany of lawsuits where you have discriminated against people time and time and time and time again. You have no sense of loyalty like Hulk Hogan. You will trade out people who are supposed to be your allies. You will throw them under the bus if it saves your ass. So, as a country, we have to reconcile with, while we aspire to be a Theo Huxtable in an ill-fitted, poorly made shirt, we are more like the guy in spandex who will turn his back on a union, use defamatory racial slurs when he thinks no one's listening, do it all in spandex, and call it the American dream. Damn. Yeah, that's all I have. So, to the families of both, I will say this: to the families of both, I wish you healing. Um, I wish that your grief comes in waves so that you're able to better process. Because even within his family, quite like Trump, there was some betrayal with his daughter. We know how that stuff all played out, but I'm going to be respectful in the sense of there's a family grieving a family member. So I'll say this: America, we have spent since the 80s and before the 80s being Hulk Hogan. I think it's time that we go find an ill-fitted shirt and become Theo Huxtable, because that one that one leaves a better mark. That one has a better legacy of who we're supposed to be in this country. So, till next time, take care of yourselves. Be smart, be wise. Don't take any wooden nickels. I don't even know what that means. Or don't take fake nickels, I guess. I don't know. But good to be back. Show 7. See you next week. And be kind to each other. Please be kind to each other, because we also see in this how short life can be. So be kind to each other. Till next time. Take care.